We are here for Toy Tuesday. So many toys. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hopefully, everybody's off to a good Tuesday. Weird. Streamlabs is showing that I don't have all my usual bots that show up when I stream. Huh. But who knows? Maybe they're still there. Interesting. That's one of the weird things, like when you stream, is there are all these bots that populate your channel. They're friendly bots generally. They're doing stuff in the background, but I don't see them right now. Weird. Anyway, it's Tuesday. Let's do some toys. Yes, I was. Other than one, yeah. I think I know what Kentucky Turtle you're referring to. Yeah, so I was looking around late last night for toys to open today. So I picked out some stuff. First of all, we're going to start with DC Comics, as we so often do, because I have so many DC toys. As you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Batman, but there are some really great Batman toys, and I like variations. Typically like variations of characters, even if I don't like the main character. So, there's this guy. Now, we've looked at these before. So in the DC Comics Multiverse by Mattel, 4-inch scale. Again, it's over. They don't have the license anymore. These variant Batman figures were based on video game skins. So it's branded as Arkham Origins, Knightfall Batman, because it's got to be Batman. The annoying thing about this is yeah, exactly, all the Spider-Man. So if you know your comic book history, and not everybody does, this character that we're looking at right here is not Bruce Wayne, right? It's Azrael, Jean-Paul Valley, who took over the mantle of Batman when Bruce Wayne was broken by Bane in Knightfall way back when. Oh yeah, I love my Peter Parker. Azrael is a really interesting character. They did some wacky stuff with him. Sean Murphy brought him back just recently in the what do you call it? The White Knight series. So it's a little bit annoying that on here, because again, this is based on a video game skin. If you look here, it says real name, Bruce Wayne. Womp womp. Well, not really. I mean, you could have like done the real thing. But and there's like this weird like lava glow Mr. Freeze. I don't have that one. It looks cool though. It says high-tech gear, cowl with detective vision, assortment of batarangs, grapnel gun, armored and weaponized Batmobile. But again, this is all just based on the like the standard version for the video game, and then they do different figures in the different skins. It is noteworthy here that Batmobile, and there's no little trademark next to that. Usually it would have the little trademark symbol, like they do over here with Batman. I mean, I assume they have the name Batmobile trademarked. Maybe not. Anyway. Hey, I say Ghost. So now I will open up. Look at how much. It's like he wants to get out. Yeah, so it's a typical thing. Jean-Paul. He worked with Batman, helping out. Batman gets broken, takes over, but of course, he also turns bad. He's got problems. He was raised by some weird religious order. Okay. Now this is basically, it's based on the same body we've seen before in this line. So it has essentially the same articulation. It has these kind of weird hips where they go out, but also forward and backwards. So it's sort of an alternate version of, instead of doing a ball joint, it has basically 2 joints in there. But it affords a decent range of motion, but it looks pretty awkward. Like that looks weird. That looks even weirder. Not that you necessarily pose your figure that way. There is a thigh joint, which is nice and hidden under here. So that's kind of cool. Here it's just cut there. He's going to stand a little bit funny because, look at that. Look at those wicked things on the back of his leg that bounce against his cloak. But that's okay. As with the other ones, like, the proportions are a little bit odd, and he looks really top heavy because his legs are so skinny. Basically, just a skin tight suit on the legs, and then the utility belt and this big upper torso. From afar, it kind of looks like he's not wearing pants. He's got these more high tech gauntlets, I guess you'd call them. There is wrist articulation, which is nice. But he doesn't come with any weapons, no accessories, just the Batman. Obviously, that neck articulation is going to be quite limited by that the big old collar piece. And overall, it's not exactly what Knightfall Batman looked like in the comic books, but it's not bad. Now, what's interesting is that prior to this, there was a series of Batman toys that were aimed at little kids or younger children. I forget the name of it. It was tied in with one of the cartoons. There are always Batman cartoons going on in one form or another. And they did a bunch of direct to video Batman animated things, and then they spun off a bunch of toys based on it. So, and one of the things that is really cool when they do that is that some of the alternate versions, they sneak in some comic book designs. So a couple years before this one came out, I think it was, in that sillier toy line was this. And again, the first time I saw this, I was like, oh, that's Azrael Batman, just in like an animated form. So I picked that up a while back. But now I have the real version. So again, you can definitely see the influences there in a more kidified, but still pretty cool looking toy. I think this was after The Batman, but I'm not entirely sure. I have a couple of The Batman figures, notably because Green Lantern shows up in one of the episodes, and they made a toy of it. That's pretty darn cool. Let me see if I have that handy. Is it this one? Is it this one? Maybe it's this one. I think this is it. There is 2008. That sounds right. I think this is it, but I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, but then I think they carried on that into... Oh, it was some, like... It was a really silly Batman movie line. It was like Beast something, like they had there were robot animals and things. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter. Here it is. So yeah, a couple different versions. Now this is my only other. They never made Azrael Batman in a small scale action figure. there have been a couple of larger ones over the years. And then, of course, I do have the HeroClix figure, but it is packed away in a closet. But that's pretty cool. He's dark. But yeah, some really good stories with Azrael Batman and the whole Knightfall series. Oh, look at this. It's a decent sized figure, right? But all they did was boop a dot of paint for the ring. Come on, you could give me some sculpt. Oh, and that figure oh, it's just the white. Oh, the white paint is. Oh, it's sticky. Oh, gross. Yeah, they have yet to release an action figure based on that noteworthy scene in what was it? What was that? I don't remember the name of that book, but yeah, that the Black series or Black Label Batman book where he reveals. Was it just Batman Black? Yeah, where he reveals some extra stuff that we don't often see in DC Comics. Right, let's look at Eaglemoss. Talk about Eaglemoss a lot. So Eaglemoss DC. Let me show examples. So they've done, and they don't. I don't think they have DC the license anymore. They still do Marvel movie stuff. So there were a bunch of figures that looked like this, where they were just, and these are metal. They're very heavy. Oh, a red version of Azrael. That's cool. So these are metal figurines, little statues. The sculpts on these vary greatly. Some of them are fantastic. Some of them are a little goofy. Oh, so a red version. That's cool. I mean, blue is the classic, really. So again, there are just where they have basic bases, and these are just the superhero collection or whatever it was called. And then there were chess pieces. So figures on chess bases, essentially. You could, in theory, you could collect 1 billion of these things and then have a giant chessboard. Oh, a red one of this one. That's cool. It would cost you a lot and take a very long time to collect a full chessboard worth. And it wasn't like they just laid out the standard figures and then they were done. Then there were other versions. So like if you didn't like Green Lantern, there was a different white bishop you could get instead. It was very complicated. And then I think they finally did end up selling sets. So you could buy a full set of figures to play with, or and then like boards. They did the whole thing. Like I said, very expensive. I just have a handful of these figures. I didn't go crazy with collecting the whole thing. They look nice for the most part. This one, the sculpt is a little bit too close to him, like punching himself in the face, which I don't really appreciate. This one, the paint is kind of soft, especially around his face. And so, like I said, these are okay. They're all right. Now, a while back, I picked up the White Lantern Sinestro, which looks okay from afar, but again, you get up close and looks a little goofy, but it's okay. And then later on, bought but never opened the chess version of Yellow Lantern Sinestro. So let's open that one up. Again, Eaglemoss for a long time was known for these giant magazines that came with all of their items, whether they're statues or ships. So you get this thing. Now I want that version of Sinestro. I don't know if they ever made one. Like I said, this line ended, but I think there is a version of that one. So this is when he has parallax inside of him. If you're not a lantern person, there's a lot of backstory. Indomitable willpower. These these books are always really great. Like they've got a lot of really cool comic book images. They're not always the best written. There are a lot of typos in these things typically, but it gives you a little past. So pre Green Lantern, Sinestro back on his home planet, wearing the suit that would later become famous in the Legion of Doom. You can see like the little star pattern around his neck there. I think Sinestro was one of the most powerful Green Lanterns of all time. Got in trouble for a bunch of stuff. Started his own Lantern Corps, the Sinestro Corps, the Yellow Lanterns. Was a White Lantern for a little while. Went back to green. Yeah, it's complicated. Got the power, the parallax power. Sinestro Corps War. So again, lots of cool art to look at, if nothing else. Advertise another one. And then, of course, we get the figure. Yeah, Sinestro is great, although it does vary depending on the writer and the era that we are talking about. Sinestro has been a good guy, a bad guy, a mysterious guy. Oh my goodness, they used a lot of tape on this thing. Sinestro is his last name. His first name is Thaal, Thaal, as we learned just a few years back. So Sinestro here is another bishop. And again, like, he's not bad, especially from a distance. But up close, it's fine. A little bit of paint scuff around his face, which again happens to a lot of these figures. He's got a decent butt. Always got to check out the butt. So of course you can do Green Lantern versus Sinestro there. Oh, Blue Lantern Flash is awesome. Yeah, that whole part of Blackest Night when they get the deputy lanterns. I think I have toys of most of the characters from that series in one way or another. Those were interesting for 6-inch toys because both Mattel and DC Direct did action figures of those, and they were both good, but they looked slightly different. I'm trying to look and see if I can. Those are way up at the top of the display. I don't think I can grab many of those easily right now. Nah, that'll have to wait for another day. But yeah, essentially, during Blackest Night, they realized that to defeat the Black Lanterns, you need multiple other colors at once, for the most part. So Ganthet, one of the Guardians of the Universe, was there, and he basically activated a secret thing in all the rings that duplicated them. So each of the heroes, well, each of the leaders of the Corps, the different Corps that were there, each of their rings like basically spawned a second one and then grabbed onto somebody nearby so they could have a whole another set. So we got Mira, Aquaman's sometimes wife, as a Red Lantern because she was real mad at the time. And then yeah, Flash became a Blue Lantern, and Scarecrow of Batman's Rogues Gallery became a Yellow Lantern. The Atom The original Adam, well, not the original, but the more popular Adam became a whatchamacallit, Compassion Indigo. So yeah, that was super cool. And like I said, they've done toys of all of those, which are great. So yeah, Sinestro, not bad. Yeah, there are so many Sinestro toys over the years. I have a huge amount of Sinestro toys. Green Lantern, Yellow Lantern, White Lantern, you name it, I probably got it. And of course, I have every single version of Sinestro from HeroClix. Again, just not easily able to grab it for this. Yes, Lex Luthor got the Orange Lantern, which did not go well because Larfleeze does not share. He was very upset that a second ring was out there. Blackest Night was super cool. Great crossover event. I have some issues going back and reading that and Sinestro Corps War because of Ethan Van Sciver, which is a bummer. But what are you going to do? You find out some people are not great in real life. It happens. Okay. And again, there was some Ethan Van Sciver arts in that Sinestro booklet right there. All right, let's go to space. Well, we were already kind of in space with Green Lantern stuff. I don't think I have anything else to talk about this. It just kind of is what it is. It is what it is. So let's go to space with Star Trek. Now, like I've said before, I have a bunch of these that I haven't opened, that I've just picked up along the way. Almost exclusively Federation ships, because that's what I like. It's my aesthetic. Plus, they've made so many of these goddamn things that I've spent way too much money just on the Federation ships. I cannot imagine buying everything. I'm also way behind now because I would try to buy these through my local comic book store, which is always a nice thing to do. But it was kind of tough because the way Eaglemoss works with previews, which is the way you buy anything from a comic book store for the most part, is they would only, when a new issue is announced, it would go in previews. You'd have a short window in order to pre-order it, and then basically you can't get it after that from comic book stores. Although you can still get it from Eaglemoss directly or from their Amazon store. So with COVID, I haven't been going to the store, and previews wasn't available for a couple months. So I don't know where we are in the numbering and what's going on. I know they started a line of these this size that are based on ships in Star Trek Online, and those are very cool designs. I don't feel like I need to collect all of those. It's a little bit of a different aesthetic than a lot of the more traditional ships from the movies and the TV shows, but I'm sure I'll pick up a couple here and there. Yeah, when we find out more about people in real life, it can be a bummer. Now again, the ships that come out these days, they're not like this anymore. The booklets are smaller and it fits in a lot better. They've learned over the years. But I thought it'd be cool to finally open my Enterprise C, and then we'll open up something else that's related. So let's do that. Now, if you're not a Trekkie, you might say, what's this with the Enterprise and the letters after it? What the heck does that all mean? Well, I'll tell you. Way back when, there was just the show Star Trek. Just Star Trek. Now we refer to it as TOS, Star Trek the Original Series. And in Star Trek TOS, we had the crew of the Enterprise, Kirk, Spock, Bones, Scotty, you name it, on the Enterprise, NCC 1701 Enterprise. That show ends. Many, many years go by. There's some movies. In the movies, we get the Enterprise is destroyed. they make a new one. They still call it the they refit it so it's like a new version of the Enterprise, but it's still the Enterprise. That one's destroyed. They make a new they have a new ship. They retitle it Enterprise, but it's Enterprise A because it's not the original ship. It's a new ship, but it's still called the Enterprise. NCC 1701 A. That sets the stage for successive versions of the Enterprise. Then we jump forward to the Next Generation show, and all of a sudden we're on the Enterprise D, the Galaxy class Enterprise D. And it was like, well, what happened to B and C? And it was a big mystery for a few years at least. And then in the movie Generations, they introduced the Enterprise B, which was based on the Excelsior ship class. It was a refit essentially, and they got rid of that one pretty quickly. And then in an episode, a two-parter of Next Generation, we finally found out what happened to the Enterprise C, which is this ship. It's an ambassador class. You can tell if you're a Trek person, it's very similar to the Enterprise D, just a little bit more squared off and blocky. And yes, it was destroyed. So there's a whole thing with a little bit of time travel, and they meet up with the Enterprise C, and it still has to go back to its time and die. Yeah, Elaki, exactly. Very, very similar to some of the Babylon Station stuff. And also similar in respect to how some of them have to be taken out of their the timeline they end up in to go back to do something else, without too many spoilers for shows that are 20 years old. So again, these are neat because they look really good. You've got some statistical information, some specific specifications, excuse me. You can see how it has like the squared off nacelles instead of the later ones will be more sweeping. Images from the show. Got all the typical technobabble for what everything is. And then they always talk about how it was designed and what the sort of like the original versions looked like before they finalized. These are really interesting. They go back and they find interviews and they talk to the actual designers of the ships. That's super cool, interesting stuff. And then a little behind the scenes of the episode. And that's about it. So yeah, these are always really cool for that. So yeah, the Enterprise C has only appeared in those two episodes as far as like on-screen appearances. I think Eaglemoss has gone on to make an extra large, an XL version of this ship. So they're about this big. I think they've now done them for all of the Enterprises. So we've looked at a lot of these before, but I'm a big... is the C in Attack Wing? It is not. They have not made a separate sculpt for this. In fact, one of the things that disappointed me is that they actually... So there's an Excelsior sculpt, and they reused the Excelsior, and they called it the Enterprise B. Now, we all know that the Enterprise B is based on a refit of the Excelsior class, not just the plain old Excelsior class. That was a bummer. But no, there's no Ambassador class in Attack Wing or in Star Trek HeroClix Tactics. Yeah. So again, similar to the Enterprise D, but with a circular saucer instead of an oval one. Older style deflector dish, older style nacelles. Again, this more right angle here. But like, I mean, they did a pretty amazing job coming up with a ship that really looks like it fits in with the technologies between the two eras, which I really do appreciate it. So again, there's a lot of metal content in here, so these are heavy. You didn't know. It's okay. Not everybody knows. There's some neat translucent parts in here, so if you get light shining, it'll actually come through like light, almost like light piping. You watching? You see it? We're having a little bit of a difficult morning. But yeah, it's good. These ships are about $22, so they're not cheap, but they are pretty cool. I've got these cool bases. Again, each one attaches to these in a slightly different way, so I always do look and make sure. So it latches onto the back of the saucer. And there you go. And they make for great display pieces. Now, of course, this line has done all of the Enterprises, all of the sort of the main ships from every series, Voyager, the Defiant, an actual Deep Space Nine, things like that. But then what they did that was really cool is once they got past all of the main ships, like, well, what else do we do? Okay, well, we'll do every background ship from every show and every movie. Okay, we did all that. Well, what else are we going to do? We need to do more things, more. So what I really love is they get into things like this. This is a concept version for the Enterprise C. And again, over the years, Star Trek has had just like the most incredible team of designers for their ships. And this includes like modern day people who are designing crazy stuff on computers, all the way back to like these pioneers who were literally grabbing pieces of model kits from Japan and just like bashing stuff together to make something and to put on screen, you know, in essentially in just like their hobby stuff. So this is what's known as the Probert concept, because one of the designers was Andrew Probert. And this one, you'll notice it doesn't have a number like this one. So in addition to the fortnightly releases, and you could subscribe to these and get them to come to your house automatically, or like me, you could just go and buy the ones you want. There were also Eaglemoss also had a ton of other things that you could get, from convention exclusives to website exclusives to bonus gifts that you got with your subscriptions, and you name it. So this was one of those. I don't remember exactly how this was originally. I think this was just a thing you could buy on the website. So it'll give you a little bit of background. Now, obviously, they got somebody to do a really cool CG version of this. And then there's about the dude and how he came about making this design for the ship. Now, these are usually, these are a little bit more sparse sometimes, or they'll bring in some other stuff to fill it out. Because obviously, the ship never appeared. So yeah, this is some of his other designs for other ships and things. Ferengi. So a little bit more of a lightweight magazine, but again, this ship never actually appeared in Star Trek. Yeah, and they do sell out. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes. So we can compare. So the final version and then the concept version. So it's smaller. It's actually It weighs about the same. There's a little bit more metal in this one. So we have, obviously we have elements that we'll see in the final version, but the secondary hull is quite different. And yeah, it's almost too sleek with the curves. So again, that was, I think, one of the key ways that they made it fit more as an older technology is by sort of making these harsher edges and lines. Yeah, it's hard. It's always hard to look at a concept thing because, well, for those of us who are, who know this design for so long, and it's like, oh, well, that's weird. That's not quite right. Yeah, I don't know. If I was looking at these with totally fresh eyes and be like, oh, what's that? What's that? And also, there are a lot of elements on this one that, yeah, they were just too modern for the show. So, like, we've got the impulse engines here, and, like, those are details that, I mean, yes, older ships had this stuff, but it wasn't quite as pronounced on a lot of older ships. So they just don't even have any of that kind of stuff on here. It's girthy. Yeah, it's a really interesting, sort of a more organic shape, I would say, with those curves. Yeah, they went back and they really chunked out these nacelles. But it's cool. Again, and it gives us a little bit of history as far as the design process, which is neat. For the Excelsior, which again, the Excelsior is one of my all-time favorite starships in anything. Eaglemoss has actually done a whole series of concept versions. They went through a lot of different designs in the process of making that ship, and Eaglemoss is like, hey, these are cool. Let's make a bunch of these. We've looked at a couple of those on stream before. But yeah, and so like this is the only, thick. This is the only version, the only physical version of this design that we're ever likely to get. You know, it was just a sketch. There was some art of it. Eaglemoss made it into a thing, and nobody else is going to. Yeah, it's always cool to compare these things. I do like longer nacelles. So, in relation to the size of the saucer, at least.
I need water. Mommy, I need water.
But yeah, and again, like this, like the surface texture with all of the, so the brown squares, where they look almost like brown squares, those are escape pods. And then the little tiny black details are windows. This is a phaser strip. So essentially what happens is it's an omnidirectional... I know he's getting his water. He just wanted to make a big announcement out of it. So when they need to shoot at something, essentially this lights up with energy, and then it projects from wherever is closer to what it's shooting at, which is cool. And then again, though, they wanted to make this a little bit older so they don't have quite as much of that going on. Smaller strips for the phasers, fewer escape pods that are not as prominent. The Enterprise E later on will look much more like this, and then the D. Yeah, the phaser banks and phaser strips. Cool. Yeah, I like it. And from straight on. Neat. Oh, I was going to say, where's that base? Yeah, it's always fun to look at these and be like, oh, what could have been? thinking of that episode and thinking about this design flying next to the Enterprise D. I imagine this fits like the other one. Yeah. Cool. Oh, and then I have, as far as Enterprise C's go, of course I don't have much for the Enterprise C. There haven't been a lot of collectibles made from the standard version. Again, it only appeared in that two-parter episode. It's not. I mean, the fans like it, but it's not one of the most beloved versions. But I do have this. So this is from the Japanese company Furuta. Came out in 2003. Again, same design, but they kind of went crazy with their own color scheme. This is just plastic. But this, and it's, I mean, you can see like the saucer isn't on at quite the right angle. But this Furuta line was really cool. They did ships that at the time, like there was no other way to get some of these in collectible form. But of course, you had to import them from Japan back in the early 2000s, which was a little bit more challenging than it is now, a little bit more expensive. But yeah, the blue is cool. Oh man, the Star Trek people fight over colors of starships like you wouldn't believe. The arguments, the discussions. What color should that be? Is it gray? Is it blue? But if you look at this screenshot, but if you look at that one. Ugh, so annoying. Alright, so we have Star Trek, we have comic book stuff. Let's look at something weird. Yeah, Star Trek fans having strong opinions. It does happen. Vinyl toys. They're crazy. You can find anything. Artists making toys. It's all good stuff. A number of years ago, somebody, man, I don't know why it doesn't say the name on here. But with a small company called Deep Fried Figures, which I don't even know if this thing is around. Oh no, this is weird in an okay way. Now there's a whole crazy backstory to this thing. I don't know it, sadly, but this is the Mecha Whale. Articulated adult collectible figure from Deep Fried Figures. Like I said, there's some artist that's behind this, but I don't know why they didn't put the name on here. So we have a little bit of picture with the Mecha Whale and his friends. It says Mecha Whales. Does MechaWhales.com, does that even still work? I don't know. In the distant future, mankind has allied itself with highly intelligent psychic whales. Under the guidance of those wise animals, humanity stopped polluting the earth and started to peacefully explore the galaxy. But they were soon attacked by an army of evil, marauding aliens. Now it is up to the whales to save the day. With the help of powerful robot armor, the heroic Mecha Whales fight to bring back peace to the universe. It still exists? Okay, cool. Well, that's good. And then this giant warning sign. Now again, we're not going to expect that this toy, that there's any reason why this toy cannot be played with someone younger than 18. But what does this mean? This means that they didn't pay to have this certified for kids. That's all this thing means in most cases. That's the name. Thank you, Zardoz. So yes, all this means is that they didn't hand over a bunch of money to the government to get it certified for a younger age. That's it. That's all it means. This thing could be perfectly safe for a kid, but it's the price of getting an age whatever is what it comes down to. For every year younger this says than 18, it costs more and more money. That's how that works. Now, they made this cool window box, but there's so much plastic and wrap inside, it's kind of hard to see what the figure is. I had heard about this figure, and then I found one at a local convention. I guess it cost me $20. Not bad. But this is definitely one of the stranger action figures out there. There's a little bit of art in here as a background. Look at that. So again, when you see something that says 18 and up, it's not necessarily because there's nudity involved or anything like that. Just all right. Here we go. That was easy. So this is a whale in a robot power suit. And that's about that. Now let's see. It is articulated. Not a lot. The arms can move up and down. The legs... I don't think there's any articulation in the legs. Oh, and the hands can rotate. Yeah, so from what I remember, this artist was just like, hey, this is a cool concept I have. Let's make a figure of it. I think there were variants, so it was just this toy in different colors. Maybe. Not 100% sure. It's these got a big old lumpy head. Well, you know, these are psychic whales, so it probably needs a bigger head for that. It's certainly something different. And yeah, the whale just sort of sits on top and then is clamped in at the back and the top. I don't know how comfortable that is for the whale. Big old eyes. It's weird, but I kind of like it. The legs are itty bitty. Let's see, does it stand up? Stands up pretty well. Yeah, Zardoz. I really like the Rift's undersea stuff. A lumpy-headed whale in a mech suit. Yeah, this could definitely be something in 40K for sure. So let's see. We've got this thing is bristling with weaponry. So obviously it's got the claws. I mean, there are little cannons on top of the arms, missiles, something going on back here. On the bottom are some sort of guns here, big old cannons in the back. I mean, we could make up whatever these things are, and then big missiles popping out the top or the back of the... Yeah. Mecha whales, here to save humanity from marauding aliens. I don't know that... This was the only toy that was made from this line, and I don't know much more about the concept. Like, I don't know what the aliens look like in this world, if they're as wacky as the whales. But yeah, it's a thing. Let's see, it does have deep fried figures made in China. Oh, and then it does have, actually that's cool. It has the character copyright with the artist name on there. Neat. Yeah, it's just a dreadnought. Well, I know this is not for everybody, but I like it. I think it's cool. Yeah, and this came out a number of years ago, so I don't know if these are really available much anymore. I'll have to check out the website. See what else the guy has done. Yeah, and I don't know, has a guy done other figures or what his art stuff is? I do not know. I have not checked it out. Stomp, stomp. Batman versus Future Space Mecha Whale. Oh, he's just going to bash him with his big, blobby, lumpy head. Let's see. Neat. All right, what else is around? We did Star Trek. We can do some Star Wars. Always have more Star Wars toys to open. I have a lot of those hanging around. The Last Jedi. Very controversial film. Some people love it. Some people not so much. They introduced some new ship designs in the movie. Whether you like what they did with them or not, it's up to you. Yeah, the Mecha Whales universe is pretty weird. I think it's going to be really interesting fast forwarding a few years, maybe even another generation, and seeing how people look back on The Last Jedi. I wonder if it's going to have like a really... I wonder if the appreciation for it is going to go up over the years as we get further away from it. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I think it did some really... I think it went in some really interesting places for Star Wars. Yeah, Zardoz, exactly. I mean, there are people who like genuinely, unironically love the prequels. I don't hate the prequels. I've gone back and rewatched them a couple times over the years. I'm also not an apologist in saying that they're great movies and there's nothing wrong with them. Certainly not. But yeah, I generally like Last Jedi. I thought... Oops. Just throw this stuff anywhere. I thought the stuff they did with Luke in Last Jedi was interesting. I don't think Jedi need to be super heroic all the time, and I think Luke, having seen what goes on and wanting to be off by himself and separating himself, I think that was a neat story beat. But yeah, right, it had women in it. I know, I know, and some people really can't handle that kind of stuff. So we got a collector list. Got to catch them all. I have some of these. I didn't go crazy in buying all of these only because like the sculpts aren't always super great in this line, and I have so many versions of some of these ships already. There's some that I'm missing that I still want though. I do have the Resistance bomber ship, and again, like it wasn't necessarily so great in the movie, but it's a neat ship design at least. Yes, Zardoz. There are strong feelings out there about it. Yeah, Wonder Woman is a thing that we can definitely talk about. I won't do it just yet. I know people are still getting around to watching it, so no spoilers. But yeah, Wonder Woman. That's the thing. It's the thing. We watched it. It was alright. I didn't love Wonder Woman. It's okay. Some people, man. Some people just loved it. Like, have already watched it 5 times. Okay. Cool. More power to you. So this is the... What do they actually call this thing? So these are called ski speeders. So if you remember at the end, the rebels end up on this crappy world. What the heck was that world called? Oh, I can't remember. Oh, I'm losing my Star Wars cred. What was the name of that planet? Not the not the safest design. No. So essentially, you sit in this mostly open cockpit over here. Crate. Thank you so much. And then like there's this ski that comes down to balance you on the ground as you're just crashing along. Yeah, it's a really rickety. And again, it was supposed to be an older technology. The ships were not well maintained. There is a little blaster assembly at the other end. But yeah, essentially these were, narratively speaking, these ships were designed to not work and crap out and they're not supposed to be starships, essentially, in the movie. But the design is certainly interesting, especially, again, for something that's not supposed to be a cool, super effective spaceship. So I kind of liked that. I like that it follows a design element that we see fairly often in Star Wars with offset elements. So again, we don't have the cockpit right in the middle and a symmetrical ship with, blasters on either side. No, we've got the cockpit way over here, balanced with, this other stuff. So I do appreciate when they had interesting things like that. I know, Savage Punch. I'm sorry, I forgot. There's so many things bouncing around in my head. I did like when we were watching. So I was watching Wonder Woman the other night with my wife, and no spoilers here, but like a very minor character from the comic book shows up, just a businessman, and I was like, oh, he's from the comics. Here's the name of his company, and then they like pull back, and the name of his company is on the wall. I was like, oh yeah, that's it right there. Totally meaningless information, but I was right there ready with it. So they have these bases. They had to come up with a unique version of the base for this thing. Let's see if it'll actually work. Do you have to put it on at a weird angle? Yeah, they gave us a couple of really geeky DC Comics things in that movie, which was nice. Come on. Ooh, this does not want to go in there. There we go. Okay. Oh, that works. Okay, that's not too bad. I was wondering how the stand was going to work, but that's figured that's not a bad way to sum up Wonder Woman. Which also, I mean, look, let's be honest. There's definitely an aspect of looking back at the 80s and consumerism and sort of the psychology of being able to buy anything you want, and you can make it and spend. That definitely works for 80s stories. So I'm going to say that this is fine. The best thing about these toys were that they were very inexpensive, as long as you could find them in big box stores. On the secondary market, these went way up in price just because they were not easily found. I did find this one in Target. I think I got it for $4.99 or something ridiculous, and that's great. It's decently detailed. Like there's even a little person in there. Technically, that's Poe Dameron. Not that you could tell. If you told me it was somebody else, I would believe you. They never made. I assumed it because they said so specifically that was Poe Dameron that they might just crank this out again with slightly different colors and say it was somebody else's. But as far as I know, they didn't, and that's fine. I don't need any more of these in my collection. I do like the way it stands. That works for me. Yeah, well, yes. Maxwell Lord did care about someone else. Finally. Erdansk, I'd say, if you're a Star Wars fan and you haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, don't rush. You don't need to rush out and see that. Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, essentially, if you turn it on its side, it's a B-wing. It does have that going for it. I'm sorry, Savage Punch. I also don't know in universe what company made this. If it's the same company that built the B-wing, like if there's actually like an in-universe connection between the two. But yeah, that's true. I hadn't really. I guess your view is more. Well, I mean, come on. It's got the same. It's a vertical wing with a sort of bullet-shaped cockpit on one end, blasters down at the other end. Thicker components in the middle. I'm trying to see if I can grab a B-wing toy right now. Not easily, unfortunately. I can, especially. I mean, this view definitely can see the B-wing. If it was flying like this with the blasters at the bottom, cockpit at the top, I can see that. It doesn't fly. Yes, it doesn't fly. The basic, the design looks like it could be. I know it's not a B-wing. We're not saying it is a B-wing, but it does resemble the design of a B-wing. Yeah, and Fadir, yeah, and I will say, look, there are things I liked in Rise of Skywalker. There were characters I liked. There were events that I liked. Overall, I can't say that I liked the movie. There were a lot of, even the things that I liked in that movie, a lot of them I felt were not earned. I sort of like them just because I'm a Star Wars person and I liked seeing certain things appear and things come back. And things could be cool, but it's like, well, but you didn't build that up and you just sort of threw that out there. I don't know. We could talk about Rise of Skywalker another time. And we're far enough out we can give spoilers for that one. Like, it was cool seeing Palpatine come back, but it's like, you didn't earn this. You didn't set this up. Beat it. Yeah, I mean, the behind the scenes for that movie, really, it's the fault of Lucasfilm and Disney ultimately, because they started a trilogy and there was no guiding hand to say, okay, this is what's going to happen. This has to happen in this movie. This has to happen in this movie. This has to happen in this movie. Let's work together and figure out what the connective tissue is and what the themes are going to be for each one, and let's do it all together. No. They said, hey, we need somebody to start this off. J.J. Abrams, he's a big guy. Let's let him do it. Then we'll pick directors for the other ones. Oh, you did a movie that was kind of cool? You can do this one. Oh, you can do this one. And then just like let people go off and do their own thing. And then, of course, all the garbage that happened with the last movie and Trevorrow dropping out and having to grab somebody and getting all of those issues are clearly reflected in the films. Clearly. Oh, yeah, no, Ruiner, you are not wrong. I'm going to put this out there. I am not a fan of J.J. Abrams. Not a fan. I think for J.J. Abrams, I think he reined himself in with his Star Wars movies compared to what he's done in other movies. But I wouldn't say I'm an Abrams fan. And I very much dislike that he was like, "Oh, I'm coming back for Rise of Skywalker. I'm just going to ignore all the stuff the last guy did." Now, that's not to say that there wasn't a certain element of Rian Johnson throwing out things that Abrams had done right before him, but again, that's exactly, John. That's the higher up problem and the planning or lack thereof between the movies. But yeah. Savage Punch says, another point made somewhere that I agree with is it felt like they were banking on nostalgia. Oh, yes. I mean, to some extent, well, I was going to say to some extent all the movies did it, but it's pretty much, it pretty much focuses on Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. Oh, yes. And again, yes. The fandom, that's a whole other issue. Roche Machines built this. Slain and Corporal did the B-Wing. Okay, there you go. Feeder says, with the last movie, you can see what JJ was setting up for later payoff in the first. Yeah, I mean, I guess. But even then, and Feeder, I agree with you in general, but you look at where J.J. Abrams' mysteries started off in The Force Awakens, and then you see where things ended up in The Rise of Skywalker, and it's like, even if Abrams had been in charge of this whole trilogy, how the hell was he going to get from A to C? What was his B going to be to get from, step 1 to step 3? Like, I don't know. Even if he had been in charge, I don't know that journey would have been satisfactory. Let's put it that way. I never watched Alias. I don't know. Yeah, that's right. Always the answer. Lens flares and flashbacks. Let's do that. Yeah, Zardoz. There were so many things in Rise of Skywalker, and again, like this is lots of other people have talked about this before, but it's like, look, this crazy thing happens, but we're gonna take it back right away. I'm a big fan of. Talked about this before on Screen Rant on their YouTube. There's the pitch meeting series. So good. So good. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Pitch meeting. It's by this guy. His name is Ryan something. Ryan George? Is that it? But yeah, it's all about like pitching these movies, but then talking about what's really wrong with a lot of these things. And a really good one for Rise of Skywalker. Really, I mean, they're all great. I could watch pitch meetings forever. I'm always looking forward to when a new one comes out. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We have, and we will talk a lot about Star Wars movies. Because there's a lot to enjoy, especially if you just turn off your brain and enjoy it. That's fine. But like those Russian stories. Sometimes things just pop up at the end, and it's like, okay, and this is how it's gonna end. Here you go. I did rewatch Rise of Skywalker once when it came on to Disney Plus. And I was like, oh yeah, there are parts I can just fast forward through and just get to the good parts. Yeah, Fadir, and they've talked right exactly with they need somebody with a good vision in charge, because it's not just that they need somebody in charge. They need somebody who knows the universe, who appreciates the universe. To map things out. And again, talking about J.J. Abrams, the Star Trek movies, they're not bad movies necessarily, and there's certainly there are fun elements in those movies, and I think the acting is really good in those movies, and the actors are really trying, and they're having fun with their roles. But man, oh man, at least I feel like, and J.J. Abrams has talked about this. He's like, yeah, I knew of Star Trek growing up, but it's like, whatever. I'm not really that familiar with it, but I'm gonna make these movies and make them cool. It's like, yeah, that's what it feels like watching them. It feels like, oh, I've heard of Star Trek. I want to make some cool movies, but I don't really know what this whole Star Trek thing is really about. That's what I feel watching them, personally. Your opinions may vary. And that's fine. We don't all have to... Oh, man. Savage Punch, that's not a name I've heard lately. What is he up to these days? Is he still fighting critics in the ring? So great. Dr. Bull. Man, what a character that guy is. Well, a fairly eclectic mix of things we looked at today. Yeah. I mean, look, we're all nerds here. We all like our nerdy things. We'll talk more about all this stuff in the future. Yeah, Dr. Bowl was like, "Hey, any of my critics out there, you want to say that to my face? Let's get in the boxing ring." And a few of the nerds online were like, "Okay, let's go do it." And Bowl, he beat at least one of them in the ring. I don't know how many of these keyboard warrior movie critics are how physically active they are in real life. Yes, Star Wars definitely needs more mecha whales. That's something I could see happening. All right. Yeah, I didn't watch that Airbender movie, but it looked bad. It looked real bad. Okay, I think that's enough nerdy talk for today. We could go on with this forever. Let's see who else is streaming, if anyone. Yeah, the next few years are going to be interesting for Star Wars. I mean, they've got a lot coming out. Boy, oh boy, they're cranking stuff out. So we'll see how it all goes. Yeah, and there was that weird thing at the end of Mandalorian. I won't give too many spoilers away, but I'm sure even if you haven't watched the end of it, you know that there's Boba Fett content coming out. And it's like, well, wait, is Boba Fett content going to be in Mandalorian? And then afterwards, they're like, oh, no, that's a separate thing. Okay, cool. That makes sense. The monetization continues apace, yes. Although, interestingly enough, there aren't as many kid-targeted toys as there used to be. But yes, lots of toys. Toys coming out. Boba fan service the show. Yeah, and again, that's the thing. Like, even if it's not something that any of us are super excited about, and some people are, but I'm saying the rest of us, like, we're going to watch it anyway. We're all signed up or streaming it or downloading it in some way or another. Especially because, god damn it, Star Wars people love to spoil things as soon as it comes out. They're the worst. Mandalorian assholes. That's an interesting statement. Nothing wrong with fan service. I'm gonna say sometimes there can be things wrong with fan service. In general, I appreciate fan service. I mean, of course. I mean, look at how much of a nerd I am. I love fan service, but it can be too much. It can be inappropriate. Maybe, I don't know. That would be an interesting conversation to have. Zarda says, "What do you want to bet that Christmas 2022 is previews for Jedi Academy?" Oh yeah, no, and I've already said I have gone on record that at some point in some way we will see the young adventures of Grogu and Ben Solo. Whether it's a comic book, an animated thing, in some way that will happen. And then Grogu will turn to the dark side and, I don't know, leave the universe so that he doesn't affect what happens in the sequel franchise. Because where the hell was he? Whatever. Well, that's the thing. They keep folding in the timeline over and over on itself. It's a pain. Fan service is good if it makes sense in the story. Yeah, that's true. Yes. Yeah, I know, Savage Punch. I gotta turn in my Star Wars nerd card. Yeah, I don't know. Lots to unpack with all of that stuff. Again, if you're into anime and especially giant robot anime, I highly recommend a series called Godanner. Not a super popular one, but Godanner takes fan service to an absolute art form. It parodies so much of what goes on in other giant robot series and just anime in general, but at the same time is a really good giant robot anime series. It's kind of amazing. Yeah, I figure I love that one. I haven't watched a lot of anime in recent years, but that's definitely one of my favorites. And the fan service in there is incredible. Yeah. Like I said, if you're a fan of anime and giant robots, especially, go find that one. There's a lot to enjoy there. Okay, all right. I need to stop talking and raid somebody and get out of here. I gotta go take care of the kids. Let's see. Raid channel. Who is online? Our good friend Tiny Chris is playing a video game called Vampire. I don't know anything about it, but we'll go check them out. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Look at all this crazy stuff we looked at today. I'll take a picture and post it somewhere, so let the other people know what they missed out on. Have a great Tuesday. I will be back tomorrow with Wednesday Warhammer. We'll continue building the Gladiator and talk a little bit about what we're working on for Saturday, because it's a big project that I'm working on to do with Jessica on Saturday, which should be fun. So yeah, see everybody tomorrow. Have a great day for the rest of you, and go say hi to Tiny Chris. Okay, bye. Oh my god. Alright, I am offline. I gotta do a little bit of shutdown cleanup. What is happening with that baby?